welcome back to our channel Unboxing Perspectives. So we are back with another video in our segment Kahani Aapki Zubani, where we discuss the books with our fellow readers and we try to have different opinions about the books which were quite common and which we might have read or we might not have read. So today we are having in conversation with us that Nikhil Biyani, and he is an alumni of BITS Pilani, where he did his BSc with maths, and now he is an entrepreneur and he is quite into reading, so I will call him an avid reader. But here today he is with us to discuss three of the books which are based on life of three men, and we are going to learn how to cope up with the things that they are facing. So welcome Nikhil to our channel.
Thank you, Kanika.
Thank you so much for taking out your time and joining us in this conversation. So, which is the first book that you are going to recommend today?
So, the first book would be The Giver, and the author is Lois Lowry.
Okay. What this book is actually about? What is this book based on?
So, this book describes a society which is far away from the set of society we are currently into. It describes a society which is devoid of any sort of emotion, be it sadness, grief. But on the same hand, they are like having very less choices to make. Things are quite at the same level for them. They are not competitive enough. They don't think of like enviousness or anything of that sort. So pretty much everything is pre-decided for that society, and in that society, how memory is being passed on or how memory is being kept in hands of few people, the book revolves around that.
Okay, so in short, we are talking about a perfect society where there is no sorrow, there is no grief, there are no colors, but there is a happiness and a balance in the society. So we are struggling with the questions like, is this society actually good or not, right?
Yeah, so like the motto behind developing such a society was to keep them happier or balanced. But turns out when they have very few choices to make, most of the things are predefined for them, and they can't have any emotion. I mean, with any emotion, they don't get sad or they don't get angry, but they don't also get to be joyous or happy at the contrary. So it's like a normalcy for them, no happiness, no sadness. So it is missing a lot of things. It's not quite as perfect as we assumed it would be.
Yeah, so it's like the saying that in order to experience joy, you need to have sorrow. Like in order to have the light, you need to know what the darkness is. So that is the theme around which this book revolves. Okay, so what does the title, The Giver, symbolizes here?
So the giver actually is a person who is receiver or keeper of all the memories. So since the society doesn't experience any memory of any happening that has happened in past or even the recent ones, they are like kept with just a person. So that person receives all the memory for the society. Every like when someone turns 12, there is a person who is being appointed as the new receiver. And when the new receiver is getting all the memories from the past or of elsewhere, like the world which is out of this community, that receiver does have memory of those world as well. And when he passes on these memories to the new receiver, he is being referred to as the giver of memory.
So this book is around the story of a man who receives, or more probably a boy who receives it at the age of 12, and then his struggle starts. That actually there are a lot of emotions which we are devoid of in that perfect world.
Yeah.
So what is something that you like the most about this book, or is there something that you want to carry on with you?
So actually, many times we also fall prey of thinking world in something different way. We think that the current world scenario is not good, and there should be something which should be like very different from what currently it is. So the book tells about an experiment which didn't go very well. So the memories were kept away from the normal public, and there was like pretty much same in everyone's life. and even the like there are rules for who can give you birth. Like it's not necessary
Okay.
the house you are living in, they need to be your parents. Like even those things are assigned. So there is
Okay.
no as such choice oriented thinking. Even like if I think that I want world to be just happy, that's not a complete feeling in itself. The world should be provided choices of what they want to do, and then whatever they get out of it, maybe it can be sorrows, it can be sadness, it can be lessons, it can be joys as well. The beauty of joys lies when you yourself have earned it, not it was predefined for you.
Correct. That's a very beautiful line. That beauty of joy lies when you absolutely earn it and when you actually feel the sadness after which that comes. Okay. So, in
Yeah.
case a reader is not willing to buy it, or in case they are not having the time to buy it, then is there something that you can say that they can keep it with them for even without reading it?
So one thing is, firstly, whatever we are going through, it has already been very beautifully thought by someone way in
Yeah.
advance to us. But there are certain scope of changes. Like in this book, the protagonist Jonas, he was the receiver of all the memories, but he finally
Yeah.
came to a thought that maybe the current way of living for the society is not good, and so he, with the giver, decided a way of changing how the world acted. Everyone should be aware of all the happenings. The one message is, as much as possible, we should try to be ourselves informed of everything, or if not all things in detail, but quite a much. And similarly, if you know people who are unaware of a whole lot of facts, that if they are living in their own world but the world is somewhat different, you should try spreading out the information or try bringing everyone in the light of reality. I mean, if we have the
Okay.
entire reality in our view, it is beautiful. If we have just a portion of it, it can be dark, it can be elusive. But if we have a broadened perspective of what reality is, it can be turned out as a good thing. So this is something out of the book, but I read it yesterday somewhere, that stop
Okay.
exploring new places, start finding out what better can be done at your same state. Like
Correct.
instead of exploring new job, new partner, new city, what better can be done in your same job, same city with same partner should be explored first. Like broadening
There
your
might be
current.
something, yeah, there might be something that we are actually missing out.
Yeah, there might be something we are missing out. We should try to like
Yeah.
enjoy that first.
Correct. So this was the book The Giver by Louis Laurie, and this book is something where you can learn about, is there a perfect world or not, or is something which completely devoid of emotion is something that we are looking forward to, and whether we can actually go with it or not, right? Then moving on to the second book, which is the second book that you want to recommend.
So this is like a very close to heart book. I was reading it very recently. The Man Called
Okay.
Ove, and it's by
Yeah.
a Swedish writer, Frederick Backman, and
Okay.
it's a very famous book these days, or maybe from 2012. It was bestseller for a good 1.5 year. Yeah, it's full of drama, full of story, full of conversion of a person's imagery in your head. So yeah, it's a wonderful book.
Actually, I too completed it just a month ago and I found it quite entertaining and it's a wonderful book. I think actually this was the only book I found that there should not be a movie on this. So I just completed that book a few days ago, and it was actually so enthralling and it was so wonderfully written. And I also thought that this book is something which will move you to tears actually, but at the same time you will be laughing out loud on the dialogues that he uses.
Yeah.
So, is there what is the story all about? We would like to know from you.
So the story is about a elderly person named Ove, and he's like someone who has faced a lot in life. Earlier, he has been orphaned at a very earlier age. His father passed away, who was very dear to him. Then his mother passed away. Then in a very surprising and like unexpected way, he found the love of his life, Sonja, a very beautiful name, I would say. And
Yeah,
then after that, like when they were planning a baby and they could not have it because of an accident, and then maybe at last also losing his wife due to cancer. So the man has faced quite a lot, and that is how he has become because of all these sufferings or experiences which occurred to him. So maybe that's why on the face he might appear as if a very grumpy person who is complaining about everything that happens around, or he someone who has a set way of doing things. But when you go deeper into his character, or when you like go through the book towards the mid end till the end, then you find that yeah, he's not actually a very black and white person. So there are a lot of beautiful quotes in the book, and I can remember since I have read it very recently. So there's a book that in a life of black and white, he only had Sonja was his colors, or maybe he lived a
yeah,
black and white life before and after her. Then the story is very dramatic in the sense that it does discuss a lot of characters. It is revolving around Ove, but still Ove's interaction with his neighbors, and Ove's like all the, if you can see the gestures where he's acting with that cat or the dog, or if you can imagine a man who is coming out of the house and shoveling the snow, or someone who is like passing on one liner satires at the people who can't do things correctly, whenever you say that
I'll fix.
no one can make a bicycle anymore, or no one can fix a radiator. So you can imagine a 59, 60-year-old person, even from our society, who keeps commenting on the younger generation that people these days don't know how to do things on their own, or are very tech dependent or very services dependent. So yeah, you
Correct.
can find certain similarities, but then like as similar to when we are irritated by someone very elderly thinking this way about us, but then when we get to know their wisdom, or what all they had to face, and we develop an empathy and kind of love for our grandparents or our elderly uncles, a same sort of connect was being made with O. The book doesn't highlight a lot about his griefs, but does show that how he turned out because of those griefs.
Yeah, correct. I love the way they wrote down that he was at a failure at dying, and he had the world biggest heart because of a disease. So that was
Yeah.
something very, very beautiful that I found in that book. I thought that he was very strong and very stuck to his principles, and that was the reason why he was being grumpy around. But the subtlety that he accepts a person as a gay in spite of when his family was not accepting him, and the way he accepted a woman out of Afghanistan war. And another one was when he accepted Rune as a person who forgot things, who did mistakes, but who was in pain. And he remembers everything, but he still chooses to accept him as a friend. They are the things that are beautifully presented in this book.
Yes, yes. His character is quite beautifully elaborated, and it has been shown in a way that you ought to fall in love with him towards the end of the book. You
Exactly.
are ought to fall in love with him.
Yeah, correct. So, is there something? Okay, so there are a lot of things that you can take away from this book, but there's some things that we can learn from it, or that you learn from it. That yeah, this is something that I want to have it in my life too.
So maybe here I will not see it from angle of O. Uh, Maybe like I don't want to question or change or uh, replicate anything from Ove's life. He is a very ideal character, and like even though I don't want anyone to go through what all he went through, but at the same time, I also don't want like life should be that harsh for anyone. But as an outsider, maybe like the Parwana, the late girl who came from Afghanistan, you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
From her perspective, or from like people around, that we might have some ove in our society, or we might
Yeah.
have ove in our lives, which need not be you. Don't put yourself in ove's shoes, but find some real
Yeah.
ove, and then try to bring out the best out of him. Like if even you find some grumpier person, as you could fell in love with ove's character, you should give a try to every or some grumpier person in life which you get irritated of. Maybe there is some
Yeah.
backside story, maybe you will empathize with them, and maybe you will find out that the person you were thinking grumpier is not grumpier indeed.
Okay. I for this particular book, I want to have a question like, what if the readers don't want to buy it? Because I would like to insist that whosoever is the viewer and whosoever is doing this video, please go and buy this book, because the essence and the fun of this book is by reading it. No other explanations or no other reviews can give out the essence of this book for it.
Definitely, it's a must read one. Everyone should go through the book and see how you can see a man converting from grumpier to someone you will feel for. Yeah, this is a
Yeah, correct. So I am adding this particular writer, Frederick Backman, in my must reads, and I want he has two more books there. So I just want to add these two books too, and I would love to see how he write down in those particular book and how he explained the thing in those books.
Yeah, even I found him very like elaborative as a author. Although he didn't write very flowery, but whatever words or whatever the one-liners he has chosen, those all
Correct.
need meaning to its fullest. Like the book was apt; it was not very lengthy, but like the selection of words or whatever he wanted to convey from even a single line, that was very beautiful without making it very flowery. He kept it very
Yeah.
much meaning oriented. Yeah.
Correct. And the sarcasm was also beautiful. I love the way he shouts at people. Even that was such a fun way that I thought that, yeah, this is
Yeah.
actually a good one. Okay. Then this discussion on O can go on forever, but we will be going on to the third book, which is the third book that you are going to recommend.
So this book is called The Last Lecture, and it's by a professor called Randy Posh. So he was
Okay.
like the book is more about the professor only, uh, but it's about the last lecture he gave, and in the preparation, what all went through his mind and what all he prepared for the last lecture. So,
Okay.
bit about Randy Posh. He was a like computer science professor at Carnegie Mellon University. A very sharp kid and very sharp
Okay.
academic personnel. And last lecture, like even I can recall from my college time. So, like since we engineers and we science students are very much fond of our college life, uh, being at
Yeah.
a
Correct.
different page with commerce students, they hardly enjoy it, and we enjoy it like anything.
Correct.
So even we in our colleges we used to have the last lecture series every year. Some retiring professor
Okay.
or some professor used to give it. So the last lecture, it's a very common phenomena in world of lecturers. So when
Okay.
and this man was asked for his last lecture, he was very recently diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So,
Okay.
but still, this thing doesn't hit his spirit. He was very much positively oriented towards attitude in life, and he named the lecture as really achieving your childhood dreams. He thought that people might be confused of thinking the last lecture to be something about dying or something about like leaving off, as the name
Yeah.
suggests, the last lecture. But he did impart or transmit a whole lot of learnings, which he thinks is essential when you really want to achieve your dreams. So, he did prepare a presentation which was filled just with slides. So, he was a very good and very effective lecturer
Hmm.
of his time, and he used to use just the slides and never the words or
Okay.
text. So he used to bring up a picture and give a story around it. So
Okay.
during the preparation of his last lecture, he was working on the lecture even till the last minute of it. Like he was deleting certain
Okay.
slides or adding certain slides to make the last lecture as good as possible. Like that was his last. He can leave for his kids. He can leave for students to cherish. And there is a video on YouTube of this lecture. You can search it. It's last
Okay.
lecture by Randy Posh, and how he gave that. And I have seen the video as well as I went through the book. So the book does describe how he was preparing for it and what were the different elements in the book. So, like to name a few elements, he was like he did describe about his father, who was a very curious person. And there is a line in the book where they say there are two sort of families: one who have a dictionary to at their dinner table to discuss the things of, and one
Okay.
which doesn't. So they belong to the first kind because at every dinner there used to be a discussion about a variety of new things. His father was very curious. He into computer sciences and data was very curious, and they always had new things to discuss. Another thing he does speak about is of time. He does focuses on time very much because in a situation when you are diagnosed with cancer and you are asked of your last lecture and you have to wrap up things in life, be it family
Yeah.
side, be it career side, you definitely fall short of time. So he
Correct.
does mention a lot about time, where he say time is the only thing we all have, and how so long we live or how so much we have achieved, at one point in life we will realize that we always fall short of it. That
Correct.
maybe
That's such a beautiful line.
So this was one thing, and then he mentioned about brick walls. So any obstacle
Okay.
he calls as a brick wall.
Okay.
By brick wall, he says that brick walls are not essentially there to stop you. Brick walls are there so that you can get to know how badly you want something. Like whenever you will strike a brick
Correct.
wall, you will either
Correct.
know you want to pierce it because you want that thing badly, or you will come straight away because that was merely a wish and not your dream. So since the lecture focused upon achieving your dreams, he mentioned brick walls, and brick walls was essential, as in like you need to be really badly passionate about something, you need to be badly wanting something, then only these brick walls won't matter to you. Else every time you will strike a brick wall and you will return, or you will change
Correct.
your way or go somewhere else.
That is what I was going to say, that we can actually put it into a motivational genre as well. That
Yes.
there are a lot of lectures that you can learn from a man who is experienced so long and who, as a teacher, as well as a person who is facing cancer and who knows that the time is too short. This was about the author, and this book is something which the author relates from his day, his life, his own life, and the actual lecture is there. So, in spite of the fact that you are not going for the book, you can go for the YouTube lecture. Is it quite similar, or we can go for the? We should go for the book as
So the lecture, the video, it's a shorter version of it, because in the lecture, whatever
well.
he told is one-time story might not strike to you in the one go. But once you go for the lecture and then you go for the book, you will see what all went in his mind while he was preparing for the lecture. Or like
Okay. Yeah.
this I can suggest to someone who is not giving his last lecture, but maybe giving a life lesson to someone, to refer to the way Randy Posh did it. Like whatever lessons, like many times we seek life lessons from our elders or our
Correct.
seniors or our friends or any achieved person.
Correct.
So in that person, the like in that situation, the person might act to be someone else. Rather, acting being someone else, one can try to be himself, and whatever the purest lessons he learned, in whatever way it can be, might not be very flashy, might not be very positively oriented, but when it's being very genuine, very real to what you have faced or what you have learned,
Okay.
gives a stronger message to the listener or the receiver.
Correct. So this book is something that you can go to in case of motivational genre as well, and in case you want to learn something new from a person who has been a teacher for so long. And it said that the teacher is the best student when you are teaching. And me being a teacher, I know that I learn every day from the students that I talk to. There are a lot of questions that we can never think of, and there are a lot of things that we cannot have the perspective for it. But here, when the person is going and when the person is retiring, and this is the last lecture, I think that there would be so many elements that you can learn from as a teacher as well as from the student. And it will be a wonderful motivation book to go to.
Yeah, it would be, it can be put under the motivation honor as well.
Yeah, so not from the those so-called biographies or from the books which will give you step-by-step guide, but you can learn from experiences, and that's the best thing, I guess, that you can learn as from a story. I personally feel that motivational books sometimes bore me down, that I do not want to go for writing down the steps that I want to have in it, but the fictional motivation or the story motivation is something that I can read. So I think I will put this book in my TBR too, so that I will learn something from a person experience rather than the person's guideline. So guys, these were the three books that we have recommended in the recommendation today. The first one being The Giver by Louis Laurie, where we learn that the perfect world is just an imagination. There is no world where we cannot have sorrows but happiness, and we are devoid of any emotions. Then the author doesn't think that they can actually enjoy it. Even in the imagination of a perfect world, it gives out a lot of imperfections and the conclusion that it might not be as perfect as we think it is. Then the second book was the Ove, A Man Called Ove, and by Frederick Beckman, and that is a book which will shake you emotionally as well as it will also give you a perspective of an old man who is true to the values, and the person like him is not made anymore. And that book you can go to if you want to have a fun read, and the read which will enthrall you and which will give you some emotional touch, as well as it is a light and quick read, right? The third book that we have is The Last Lecture by Randy Kosh, and that is a book about a man who is dying by cancer and who is retiring from his work, which can hit a lot of people. And then there are the learnings which you can learn from his experiences. So in all the three books, we see a perspective of an old man, whether it is the giver who is giving out the memories, whether it is the man called Hope, or whether it is The Last Lecture by Randy Koch. So there is an old man, he is giving out the learnings, but that too in a very subtle way, which you can actually enjoy rather than having a burden of learnings. So I guess this is the thing where you can learn from life of these three men, and it is beautifully presented. So thank you so much, Nikhil, for taking out your time and being with us on this session of discussion. And I hope that we can have more such discussions, and these three books are enjoyed by the reader.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for it. And the readers, if you have read this book, do mention in the comment section below and your opinion, whether you like them or not, and whether you enjoyed it or not. Thank you so much. We will meet you in the next video, in the next conversation. Till then, happy reading.